than white people on average, right, due to slavery and its aftermath, due to these social stigmas, due to these forms of
Right.
oppression, then this would reduce down to the claim that white people are superior to black people. And this
In
is why I
some
think this is a
areas,
bad form.
yes. No,
And
no.
yeah, and this
So
is why I think
yeah.
this is a bad inference of superiority at whole too.
Well, no. Okay, so like this is the distinction because in some areas it's going to be true that white people are superior to black people. In some areas it's going to be true
So
that
are
black.
you a white
Yes.
supremacist, Manimal?
No, no. So let me
Can
hear
you
me out.
define white
Hear me
supremacy?
out. Hear me
Manimal,
out.
can you
And
define
in
white
some
supremacy?
areas there's going to be black people that are exercising superiority over the white people,
Can
right?
you define white superiority?
There's going to be people. Yeah. I'm not saying like superiority. I'm
I'm
saying that
just asking you to
exercising
define
power.
this.
I'm talking about
Manimal,
in the
I'm
context.
asking you to define white superiority.
I'm
Can you do
wanting you
this for
to
me?
listen. I'm wanting.
With all due respect, Manimal, I'm asking you for a definition. If you can't define this
I'm
term,
talking about exercising power.
and I'm just asking you to define
That's what I
white
said.
superiority.
I just did. When white people are exercising power
When white
over,
people are exercising
yes,
power over who?
over any other like group.
And you just admitted, right, in some contexts, this would be the case. So would you consider
There would
yourself to be,
be
one
no
second,
like
Manimal, would you consider yourself to be a white supremacist in some contexts?
no
So then you
acknowledging.
don't,
Can
so
you
then
hear
you
what I'm
don't
saying,
think that like white people would have more power than black people in some
bro?
contexts. Steph, thank
Can
you for
you
that
acknowledge?
mustache.
Okay, bro. Can you acknowledge that white people had power at some point in the past?
Wait, I'd
Did
acknowledge
they?
that white people have more power than black people
Oh,
today.
does that make you a white supremacist?
No, because I'd hold to a
Oh,
different inference of
wow. Wait,
white
it makes you a
superiority.
white supremacist because you're acknowledging that white people have power. So that makes you a white supremacist.
Wait, I'd
Interesting.
specifically define white superiority as this.
Interesting. So you're a white supremacist then,
Can you ask me how I define the term animal?
by white people having power.
No, no, this is not how I
Go ahead and
define the
define it
term.
then.
Right? Because I would express white superiority as basically denoting that white people, right, would somehow be better or have more value than non-white
Right.
people. Right?
Yeah,
And
and
this is
that's
why I think it's a smart way to cash out this notion of superiority as having more value or being better than. Right? Not having to do with certain power dynamics. Because if you cash out superiority to do with who is in certain positions of power, well, then this would reduce down to the claim that you would be a white supremacist, right? And then also another reason why I think considering superiority to be denoting of positions of power is, well, you'd say that white supremacy isn't inherently bad, right? And that's also wrong.
so. Am I gonna keep getting muted every time I try to engage with the conversation?
I mean, Manimal, the reason that I muted you there is because you tried to get me in like a really shitty gotcha by taking your interpretation of white supremacy and projecting it on myself, when in all reality, these are the problems with your own interpretation of what superiority is. It's going to reduce down to you being a white supremacist. So,
No,
Manimal, do you recognize that you're a white supremacist due to the fact that you'd cash
dude.
out superiority as denoting of who's in power, and you'd understand that white people would have more power than black people? Would you label yourself as a white supremacist, Manimal?
No. Just like you
Okay,
wouldn't label
so then you don't cash out, right? Superiority as denoting of who's in power. So then if this is not how you'd
Can
interpret
I?
superiority, then how would you interpret superiority?
So like, are you just gonna like
Stefan, thank
straw
you for the
man the
hands.
entire position? Because I've came up here and I specifically said in the context of like
Thank you for the
human
handout, Stefan.
life, right? I'm not talking about the superiority of human life. We're talking about whether or not
Stefan,
there
thank you
have
for the
been
handouts.
times and places where people have been in power over other people, and you acknowledge that they have been. So that makes you under because you're saying I'm a white supremacist for acknowledging that white people were in power at different times at different times in history.
I'm
You,
calling you a
you're
white
saying I'm white. You're saying I'm
Manimal.
white supremacist
Wait,
because I.
instead of you saying what I'm saying, I could just say it myself.
That's literally
I'm
what you did.
I'm
You
saying
saying,
that you what would be a white
and you keep
supremacist. Give
interrupting.
it, yeah, because you're trying to tell me what I said. I could just tell you what I said, right? According to your own definition of superiority, you'd be a white supremacist. Did you or did you not define superiority as who has more power?
That is not. I'm
Okay, so
lit.
then can you
Okay.
redefine superiority for me?
Okay. Now listen, bro.
No, Manimal. If that's not the way in which you define superiority, please redefine superiority for me.
In the context of the conversation, we are talking about the exercise of power. Yes.
Okay, so then this would be the way in which you cash out superiority. I wasn't wrong, and when you said no, you just lied. So
I'm not.
you'd cash out superiority. Oh, and he just got flagged and banned. Whoop. All right, we're gonna go ahead and move on to our next guest. See what I mean? So it's like when people would like try to come up and make the argument that somehow superiority would be denoting of like who's in positions of power, like they just have to concede to this idea that they are literally a white supremacist. Like, oh dear Lord, what's going on, man? Do you think that men are superior to women, all things considered? Hello? All right, they're not even here. We're gonna go to move on to our next guest, y'all. If we are in the guest request, make sure that we do think that men are superior to women, all things considered, y'all. What's going on, Aura? Do you think that men are superior to women, all things considered?
No, I believe in egalitarianism. Uh,
WW, we're gonna go to move on to our next guest, y'all. We are just specifically looking for individuals that do think men are superior to women. Also, Tashika, thank you once again so much for the raid. If you guys do want to support me, my Venmo and my PayPal are in my bio, y'all. Hey, what's going on? Do you think that men are superior to women, all things considered?
Yes.
All right, why so?
Like, the word men is in the word women. Let's get W guests in the chat, guys. Wanna roll. Let's do this.
Okay. How do you define man and woman? Dude, he just left. I'm sorry. The reason I didn't respond isn't because I got gagged. It's because I was laughing a little bit. He just fucking left. I think he was trolling. I think he was trolling, ladies and gentlemen. I think he was trolling. Let's go and see what our next guest has to say. That was his argument. I'm pretty sure he was trolling. Yeah, I think he was trolling. What's going on, man? Do you think that men are superior to women, all things considered?
Yo, so can you hear me?
No, you got a really shit mic, if I'm being honest, man.
Oh, that's unfortunate. No, to be
Do you
fair,
think that men are superior to women, all things considered?
do I think men are superior to women? I think, personally, in my opinion, I think we need to ignore this fact and, because let's be real now. This entire argument is just like all the people in these comments are all arguing with each other. I don't think this is solving anything. I think
Okay, yeah, we have Jesus up in our life. We have Jesus in our life. Jesus is here to end the division. Jesus is here to bring us together. Jesus is here, dude. Oh my God, I swear to, dude. You know what you remind me of? You remind me of like Miss America saying that her biggest dream is to uh, bring world peace. Like, dude, shut the fuck up. Are you here to debate me or not?
I'm trying to spread my opinion, and your only response is to insult me. Not only me, but also my religion.
Oh, I'm so sorry for insulting your religion, man. Do you think that men are superior to women, all things considered?
I don't think it matters. Some people have their
I think it does matter, man. I'm not gonna lie. I think that misogyny is very violent and it oppresses people. It perpetuates harm, right? And if we say that this does not matter and we just simply ignore it, well, then you're basically just complacent with very real harm against very real people. And I think the only reason you don't think it matters is either A, because you are a misogynist yourself and you want these to continue to perpetuate these ideals, or B, you're not a misogynist, but you just don't possess the ability to put yourself in other people's shoes, and because you're not a woman, it doesn't matter to you. Well, it's time to wake up, put your big boy pants on, thinking cap on top of your head, and either give me an argument or leave.
Am I unmuted? Alright, let me make this clear. Okay, number one, I never said men are superior. I said when I mean it doesn't matter, I mean I'm more in I was still kind of thinking about how you just insulted me for no reason. I don't think men are superior. I think there's been times where men have liked to think they were superior. I think there has been points in time.
Maddie, thank you so much for the You're Amazing. W Maddie in the chat for the You're Amazing. W Maddie in the chat for the You're Amazing. Unfortunately, right, for the provided reason that you don't hold that claim, I'm going to move on to the next guest. I do appreciate you for coming up, though. W Maddie for the You're Amazing. We're going to go to get our next guest, Triss, up in here. Everyone, just allow us a moment to get some debates going, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentle hands. All right, Triss is not loading up. Moving on to our next guest here, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go ahead and see what Johnny4555 has to say. Katie, thank you for the hanging lights. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. We got our next guest. What's up, Johnny? Do you think that men are superior to women, all things considered? Okay, Johnny's just watching TV. Let's go ahead and get our next guest up in here. We got a Bella loading in, ladies and gentlemen. If we are in the guest request, make sure that we would hold to the idea that men are superior to women. All right, literally no one is loading in chat. I do apologize. Just be patient and stick with us here while we try to get a debate going. What's up,
Not
Scott? Do
really
you think that men
sure.
are do you think that men are superior to women, all things considered?
All things considered, I do.
Why so?
Well, I think they both carry certain unique traits that obviously separate each other. But I think women break down on the emotional aspect of their makeup, and they are more emotional. They work with emotion more than a man. A man can see point A to point B, and that's it. Not detour from the objective. Whereas I believe a woman, it's been proven that they I mean, and it's not a bad trait. It's just something that they compartmentalize, I think, differently than men. So therefore, they've got more going on up there, and that I think is a weakness.
Would you say that like some obvious evidence of women being more emotional than men is the fact that women, right, self-unalive more, women abuse substances more, right? Would you say that these are
That's
like
not true. Men abuse substances just as
fuck?
much as women.
Fuck, I was trying to gaslight you. I was trying to gaslight you. I was
No.
actually trying to gaslight you. Who do you think would be more likely to self-unalive? Kelly, thank you for the magic.
I've got the shield up, man.
I'm not gonna lie. I'll give that one to you, Scott. I'll give that one to you, Scott. I'm surprised you knew that. I'm surprised you knew that. I'll give that one to you.
All right, well,
Well,
go for it. Give me your best
yeah.
shot.
Who do you think would be more likely to self-unalive? Someone that acts on emotion or someone that acts on logic? Maddie, thank you for the hand hearts.
I think logic, because that has
So you're saying that
that
suicide
has
is
an answer
logical?
to it. That
You're
has
saying
an
that
order of
suicide
operation.
Scott, are you saying that suicide is logical?
No, that's not what I was saying at all. I'm saying the act of doing it and preparing and putting all the stuff that you have to do in order to commit suicide, however you're going to do it. I think all of that makes
So
it
would you say that suicide? Would you say that self-unaliving is illogical?
self-unaliving, of course, is illogical.
Okay, so if self-unaliving is illogical, right, I think that an individual that acts on less logic in comparison to more logic would be more prone to do so. And given the fact that 82% of suicides are committed by men, this would be indicative of men being more illogical than women. We could also look at other things such as like the substance abuse rates, with substance
Right.
abuse
You
being
can
an
look
unhealthy
at
coping
things.
mechanism to deal with unprocessed emotions. We could also look at violent crimes. Men commit 95% of all violent crimes. We could look at who started wars and genocides. That's all been men. We could look at like certain like irrational like risky activities such as gambling, drunk driving, reckless driving, all dominated by men. But then we could look at things that are actually logical, such as performing well in school, getting degrees, and preparing your future. Right? This is all dominated by women. I just don't see any evidence for this idea that women are more emotional than men.
I think men tend to take the leadership role. I mean, when they take that leadership role, whether it be for a
Blue Sky,
group
thank you for
or
the boxing
within an
love.
individual, group setting, I think it's going to be the man that's going to like come up with the ideas. That's going to come up with the things before a woman.
But I'm going to say that's not because men would be better at doing so. Sanso, thank you so much for the cap. I don't think that men would be any better at leading than women. I just specifically think that this would be caused, right, by these traditional norms, social stigmas, right, that have like highlighted men as being leaders, with the root cause of so being misogyny. Right, but if you disagree with this, what traits do men possess that women don't possess that cause men to be better at leading than women?
Like physical traits or mental,
Just tell me what attributes men have that women don't that cause them to be better at leading, because I don't think there would be any attributes that would exist like that. Right? I think it's all just caused by these social norms and stigmas
I'm gonna
that would
go with my
associate
first-
leadership
my
with
first-
men, right, and submissiveness with women. Samuel,
I'm
thank you
gonna
so much
go-
for the
I'm gonna go
$50.
with
One second.
original-
Samuel, thank you so much for the $50 over Venmo. W Samuel in the chat, ladies and gentlemen.
Nice.
W Samuel, thank you for the $50, man. That's so incredibly kind of you. W Samuel in the comment section. Thank you so much for your support, bro. Go ahead. man.
I think I'm going to stick with the fact that it has been known that the emotional side of a woman can be can hinder her
Bro,
chances.
I don't know. Give me evidence for this. I don't believe you. I actually don't believe you. I've given you, right, so many, right, societal, right, data points to show that this is not the case. I've given you certain statistics that would overwhelmingly be indicative of men being more emotional than men. I've also given you certain statistics that would be overwhelmingly indicative of women being more logical than men, right? And you just
You have to
continue to
define
repeat
the
this claim.
parameters of emotion. Okay, if you're going to say they're more emotional, you have to define the parameters of what emotion you're talking about. Because there are certain emotions that take on intellect, there are certain emotions that take on feelings of love and security and all of the. So emotion can be a broad, subject in its
So then
own.
go ahead and define it.
Huh?
So then go ahead and define it. I mean, you're making the claim that women are more emotional than men, and this is why men are superior. Yes, Scott?
Well, I mean, I don't really know how I could define it because you really can't, because it's really up to the person who's perceiving that emotion.
Okay, so if you
you're gonna say
can't
a
define
man's more
emotion,
emotional. Listen
so
to this.
we have
You're
a
gonna say
couple big
man's
issues
more
here.
emotional.
We have a
All right,
couple.
you're
We have a
gonna say
couple
man's
really
more
big issues here,
emotional.
Scott. So
All
the
right.
first big issue is that you can't tell me what emotion is. The second big issue is that you cannot respond to or address any of the data in which I gave you that would be indicative of men being more emotional than women. The third big issue is that you can't provide any evidence for your claim that women are more
You're
emotional
not
than
giving me
men.
a chance. You're not
I'll
giving
give
me
you a chance. Go ahead and give me evidence for that claim.
So what I was going to say is, so let's look at the emotion of what the emotional qualities that make up a leader. All right. So I think that, inherently men have always been the leader. We've had women in that role, but the bottom line is that men's always held that position. Why do you think that is?
Because of misogyny, Scott.
No. That's such a cop out. Get off the misogynistic stuff.
If that's not a cop out, and this
It
is caused
is
by
a
the fact that
cop-out.
okay,
That is a modern term.
so Scott, if this is not caused by prejudice against women and these social stigmas that would typically associate women with being submissive and answering to the man, it must be because men are just literally better at leading than women. Right? And there's a couple big issues with this. First of all, not only do we typically see men leading, we typically see white men leading. Right? So would you agree with the claim that white people are better at leading than black people?
You're not going to catch me in that argument. Let's keep going with what I'm saying about.
Scott, please answer my question.
That's not a correct question. That's not I should
Kyler,
say.
I appreciate you for the hand arts. It
an
is a correct
appropriate
question.
That's not
It
an
is
appropriate question.
It is definitely an appropriate question. Can I explain to you why?
You haven't formulated a base action for that question.
I'll tell you right now. Yeah, I'll go ahead and tell you right now. So
Okay.
you're denoting the fact that in this dynamic of gender or sex, men and women, right? You're saying men are superior to women because men are better at leading. And you told me that men are better at leading because there's been more leaders that are men in comparison to leaders that are women, right? But now if we just take this out of the dynamic of sex or gender and we put it in the dynamic of race, right? Well, we also see more white leaders than black leaders. Does this mean that white people are better at leading than black people? And does this mean that white people are superior to black people?
There are black leaders in this world.
There's women leaders in this world. We're talking about proportionalities here.
So look at where the numbers are. I mean, do you see more white men leaders than you see black men leaders?
Yes, 92% of Fortune 500 CEOs are white. Meanwhile, 8% are black. 45 presidents have been white. Meanwhile, 1 has been black.
Mm-hmm. So why do you think that is? I mean, is it because
of
black men
racism?
want to become a leader?
because of inequities that would exist in the context of opportunity to become a leader and social stigmas that have been associated with black people leading due to racism, right? And if you would agree to this, then I see no reason why
I'm
you
not
wouldn't
going to agree to that, because that's just telling people they're playing the victim. They're in essence martyring their condition.
Okay, so then why do you think it is, Scott?
I think demographics have a lot to do with it. I think
That's a vague concept. Be more specific, please.
Demographic. Well, you have in Africa, there are many black leaders in Africa. Okay, so the demographic in Africa that you have 90% of that continent is black. So therefore, you're going to have more men black leaders than white. Yeah, I mean, obviously in Africa, that's just, I mean, it's without
Oh yeah,
saying.
well, I mean, we could account for like the disproportionalities of like comparing Black Americans to white Americans, and there'd still be a disproportionately like higher amount of white people leading in comparison to Black people. So like this idea that it just has to do demographics and the fact that Black people would constitute a minority of like American citizens. Well, even if we account for the fact that they constitute a minority, they still are disproportionately underrepresented in the context of leadership.
I agree, but
So if you agree
have
with this, then no, the
demographics.
demographics would not, right? With the
Obviously,
demographics would not cause
you
this.
do, because what
Bro,
happened was
what?
white man, I mean, white government, basically what it did, our freaking government, they basically, in the guise of a good intention, put the blacks in, like, let's
Can
say,
we not say the blacks? We could say like Black individuals,
like
African Americans.
Harlem. They were going to say
Can we,
that's
can we not dehumanize Black
transmission
people,
for you.
Scott?
So they
Can we not?
misled them.
Can we not dehumanize Black people, Scott?
This has nothing to do with dehumanizing black people. This is
Yes,
history.
you just
This
said
is
the
our history.
blacks, bro. No, Scott, you just said the blacks. Do you understand how like how this is do you understand how like derogatory this is? Do you understand how like this like would unironically, right, like dehumanize like Black individuals? I mean, Scott, just imagine if you heard someone saying the whites. Oh, the whites. You know what I mean? See how that kind of feels a little bit dehumanizing? Now imagine, right, that an individual was saying the blacks, right, with the preface of the dehumanization in which has occurred and been perpetuated onto like African Americans, historically speaking. This is incredibly dehumanizing.
When
Go
you
ahead and unmute.
absolutely, I'm not gonna deny that was a mistake on my part. And how I was talking, and that's due to my inexperience to the format of debating. So
I mean, I just maybe think it's been like a lack of education, right, on these issues. But anywho, so yeah, why do you think we see a disproportionate amount of like white leaders in comparison to Black leaders?
there's more white people. I mean, there's a majority of
Scott, I've already went over this. Scott, we've already went over this point. Even in accounting for the disproportionate amount of white people in comparison to Black people, we still see that there is an even larger, right, disadvantage or disproportionality in the context of leadership.
right. Yeah, I agree with that.
So then, right, the fact that white people would account for a majority would not explain, right, the disproportionate minority of Black leaders in comparison to white leaders.
So it's almost like an argument that can't be really debated in a way that's going to promote construction, because you already have like you said, the disproportionate factor right there. I mean, pretty much cancels any argument after.
Bro, no, it doesn't. It
should.
fucking doesn't. Scott, oh my God,
I mean, you have
please.
you have a less selection, you have a less variety of one side,
Bro.
and you have more variety of the other side.
I'm just gonna show you what I mean. 1 second.
And you see what I'm saying, though.
For instance, 1 second.
Okay.
For instance, right? So in the context of the United States of America, right, due to this last census, 13.6%, right, of the population is Black or African American.
That's pretty low.
Meanwhile, nearly 2% of our presidents have been Black, and about 8% of the Fortune 500 CEOs are Black, right? So while we do take into account, right? The vast minority in which African Americans would constitute when we're referring, right, to the overall American populace, they'd make an even smaller minority, right, in the context of leadership.
Right, and then throw the other things that make up our history. When you talk about Jim Crow, you talk about all these things that prohibit.
Exactly.
Right,
Yes.
right.
Now we're
So-
getting somewhere, Scott. Right.
So how can you have-
it is inequalities and opportunity and social stigmas / norms in which would cause for the disproportionate amount of white leadership. But what we're saying here is this is also the reason why there's more man leaders than women leaders.
Yeah, I mean, I see that's a tricky road because I mean, I think over the years, you know, even in the late 1800s, there have been women that have been dynamic and could have led this country, you know, as a president, but they couldn't. They were in
Scott,
their own.
let's wrap this back around to your original claim that men are superior to women due to the fact that they're better at leading. Right, we're saying men are not better at leading. There's simply been more men leaders due to the fact that they've had more opportunity and less stigma around being leaders.
Right.
Right, and then further yet, right, if you don't necessarily buy this claim outright, which I don't expect you to, right, understanding the nuances of these social dynamics requires education. Well, then I'd just simply ask you, well, what's the other answer to this question? Why are there more man leaders than women leaders? It must mean that men are better at leading than women. So if men are better at leading than women, well, then what makes men better at leading than women? Name the traits that men have that women don't that cause them to be better at leading. And basically what we're getting at here is there's not a trait that only men have or men would typically possess more that would cause them to literally be better at leading.
Right. No, I mean, yeah, I mean, because you can't. Because women have totally outperformed men in certain aspects, and men have outperformed women in certain aspects. So, you know, and until we have enough data, enough experience, it's almost like, you know, a question
enough
that
data.
needs to be have context in a little another frame, another example. You know, I mean, ask something different than, you know, do you think a white man's more superior than a black man? I mean, that you know is a question that it's not even a fair question to ask or answer.
Okay, if it's not a fair question to ask, is a white man superior to a black man, then why the fuck do you think it's totally fair and reasonable to assume that men are superior to women? Right? If it's really wrong and not fair to assume superiority in the context of race at all, then it should also be really wrong and unfair to assume superiority in the context of gender or sex.
You're trying to bridge a pretty big rift, you know, and make it the same similar outcome, and that's not logical. I mean, you
Okay,
can't-
well, yeah, what's the distinction? Why can we assume superiority in the context of gender or sex, but we can't assume superiority in the context of race?
I don't know of any example that you know that support, you know, the race theory. You know,
I don't know of any example that would support this idea in the context of gender or sex, right? There's no good reason, right, to assume that men are superior to women, right?
Sure, there's
And-
lots of reasons. I mean, look at the history of countries. I mean, look at yes, it's been all men, but that's what we go on. We go on
Yeah,
their success.
So what specifically is the good reason to assess that men are superior to women?
Excuse me, I didn't hear that. What?
Yeah, what's the good reason for the claim that men are superior to women?
And I'm still going to go with my first, you know, right out of the gate.
Emotional?
It is, you know, it's the emotion versus the logic.
I don't think that women are more emotional than men. I don't think there's any evidence that exists to
Of
assume
course,
this.
there's evidence. I mean,
Okay,
it's
can
out
you
there.
give it to me?
Women would even agree with that.
No,
They would agree with that.
I don't think so.
Yes, they would.
Can I ask
mean,
you what the
that's-
evidence is for this claim?
Huh? Do I have
Can
any
you ask-
evidence?
Yeah, what's the
mean,
evidence? You said there's tons, so give me any.
Well, I can only go on my own experience being with women in my life, you know, in relationships. I mean,
Well,
and
your own
them telling
experiences.
me that.
Well, your own experiences are prone to a small selection size and very prone to bias.
Small
Like
selection size. I
like
like
for
that.
instance, can I give you an example? Right?
Sure,
Like
go
for
for it.
instance, I grew up with a mom that abused hard drugs.
Okay.
Does this mean that all moms abuse hard drugs, Scott?
No, not at all.
Okay. You grew up with women that were more emotional than men in the context of your own perceptions. Does
Right.
this mean that all women are more emotional than all men?
So we can apply that to the questions that you're asking me. You know, in the context of experience and limited experience, you know, that we have as far as men being a leader versus a woman being a leader and who's better. So our limited sites are just what we have. You know, the people that have led in our past in, you know,
Led
what
in the
we-
past. Okay, so you're saying because there's never been a woman president, like men are better at leading?
do I think a woman will make a better president?
No, are you saying because we've seen like more men leaders, like for instance, we've never seen a woman president. This is obviously indicative of men being better at leading than women.
I think people are opening their eyes and understanding that the bridge to equality is becoming more present, even though we have certain
Scott, with all due respect, man, I'm asking you if that's evidence for your claim.
divide.
I'm just trying to get some evidence for your claim, right? And all due respect, I kind of feel like you're answering my questions like a magic 8 ball right now. Well, I appreciate you for being genuine, but like I don't feel
But
like
you
you're
might be
actually providing
political
evidence for your
about
claims. There's no such thing as being too political on my life. Wait, no, there totally is. There is such thing as being too political on my life.
I'm sorry
But
about that word.
I'm just
phrasing.
not necessarily like you're not meeting that threshold. You're actually one of the calmer guests, right?
Right.
I just continue to ask you for evidence for these claims, such as this idea that women are more emotional than men, or this idea that men are better at leading than women, and then your responses are very vague, right?
Okay, so let me give you one reason why women go through a chemical change every month. So that chemical change brings out more
their
emotion.
hormonal cycle.
Right, and that's a natural state.
Yeah,
And
you
it
understand that
brings
men's
through
hormonal cycle is. You understand that
not?
you understand that men's hormonal cycle, right, is on a 24-hour basis, right?
Why for
Like
I've
both men and women have these hormonal cycles.
Uh-huh.
Women's is on a 4-week basis, while men's is on a 24-hour basis. Right?
Now, where did you
I
see
don't
that?
think that there's enough evidence that exists to
did you hear
suggest that. One second, Scott. I don't think that there's enough evidence that exists to suggest that women are more emotional on their periods. I think that this is going to be very like individually dependent. We can't make a generalized claim, but if we were to make the generalized claim that women are more emotional at the height of their hormonal cycle, which is 1 week out of the month.
Right.
Well, yeah, men are more emotional at the height of their hormonal cycle, which is
Can you tell
every
me where you
single
got
day
that
of the month.
information? Because I actually heard man has a biological clock, but I thought it was, you know, just like a woman, and it was in the month. It wasn't like a 24-hour. That's a pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you could look this up on like PubMed. You could look this. I mean, this is a fact. You
When
could
did
just
they,
do.
this must be new. I mean, this must be a
Not,
new.
not really. It's just probably information that you've not been exposed to prior. Then additionally,
Dude, I've
right,
never heard
even
that.
even in like negation of this, right? Like, dude, even if you were to say that women are proportionately more emotional when they're on their period in comparison to when they're not, I'm still gonna say this heightened level of emotions when they're on their period. Supposedly, I'm still not saying this is true. I don't think it is.
Saying it's
Would not be equivalent to the level of emotions experienced by a man
But it's
at any
still
day of the month.
more
Like for
emotion than
instance,
a man's gonna
right?
get.
Like Scott, why do men commit 95% of violent crimes if they're so logical and not emotional at all? Like we understand that men just absolutely dominate women in the context of like committing mass unalivings, school schmootings, homicides, gun-related crimes, kidnapping, arson,
Here's the definition of
cyberbullying.
sociopath and psychopath. All right, I
I'm
mean-
denoting the fact that that violent crimes would be emotionally charged. They're going to be charged by anger,
No,
right?
no.
You
They're
don't
not
think that
emotional.
homicide is typically
Dahmer was
charged by
not
anger?
an emotional guy. Dahmer was not emotional. All right, you have to understand that there are no emotions coming out of these people. Period.
I would typically
Period.
say that violent crimes are going to be charged by emotions. I think that we could, look at specific instances where they're actually going to be charged by the lack of emotions, but those are going to constitute a very small minority.
I could see that argument, but I think you should take an account for that when you talk about violent crimes, you're talking about the extremes of a certain situation.
Why do men commit 95% of violent crimes if they're so
So
logical, Scott?
sociopath is probably going to be the underline of a violent crime offender.
Okay, are you saying that men would have vastly more mental illness than women? Right? If it's not caused by emotion, you're saying it's caused by mental illness.
I actually
So
think
are men like just vastly more mentally ill than women? Because
I would have to say yes. Yes.
okay, right. So then at the end of the day, I just say that mental illness, right, and a man's right disposition to be vastly more mentally ill than a woman, considering that men would commit 95% of violent crimes while women would commit 5%, it's not going to be indicative of like a positive quality in which we should associate with a good leader, right?
What are you talking about? All leaders are freaking sociopaths or psychopaths. They have to have that to be a leader.
Scott, with all due respect, I would consider myself a leader, and I don't have any of those traits. I think that
We're
some of
talking about
the
what
best
leader-
leaders of all, Scott, one second, the best leaders of all time, right, are going to be people that are smart, are going to be people that above all understand other individuals. Because what does it mean to be a leader? Well, let's think about it, Scott. It means that you are directing the lives of other individuals in an
Yes.
impactful way. And how do we best do this? By understanding other individuals, by being
no,
a
no.
people
That's
person,
wrong right there.
And if you don't understand other individuals, i.e., you suffer from certain things such as being a sociopath, right, or being like a psychopath, etc. Well, then I'm not going to say you're going to meet, right, like these certain traits in which are going to be necessary for a good leader. If we look at like the most predominant leaders of all time and which have possessed these traits of mental illness, like Hitler, Stalin, Mussolini, Mao Zedong, I'm going to say these are some of the worst leaders of all time. Because when you're a leader and you have your own self-interests in mind over those of others, right, you're only going to reduce the quality of life of those in which you are leading.
Not necessarily all the time. That's not a constant.
Yeah, give
mean-
me an example of a really good leader that suffered from such mental illnesses that made them incapable to understand other individuals.
See, and that's another thing, understanding other individuals. I mean, you're talking about
Christine, thank you for the
plethora
galaxy.
of different types of individuals. So, I mean, to be a leader, you have to kind of
Lenny, thank you for the
generalize
singing frog.
and put people into blocks. I mean, you can't just like.
Oh my God,
individually.
with all due respect, Scott, we are only talking about generalizations here. The claim that men are superior to women is an extreme generalization. So please don't get on me about generalizations
Right,
when
right.
this
Okay.
whole conversation
thought
is
Kennedy
centered
was a
around
good leader.
generalizations.
I thought Kennedy was a good leader.
Yeah, but would we associate Kennedy to be a psychopath or a sociopath?
I'm
Or
sure
would
he
we
was a
associate
sociopath.
Kennedy to be a very empathetic, understanding, good man?
He had to make decisions though that allowed him to and unalive the whatever the objective was in the military industrial complex.
And
know,
why
I mean,
could
that-
it?
that
Why
whole-
could it? Why couldn't a woman do this?
Well, no one's saying a woman couldn't.
Why could a man do it better than a woman?
That's the emotional thing I was talking about.
And I don't think there exists any evidence for that claim besides the result of misogynistic social norms. I think women are socialized into expressing their emotions more than men. Because when you're taught to be a man in the context of society, you are told that you can't express your emotions. As soon as a man starts crying, they're no longer a man. As soon as a man, right, starts expressing certain things such as depression or anxiety, they're looked at as less masculine and more feminine. Right? It's because of this negative stigma that's associated with a man expressing their emotions. This is
you
what
think
I'm
that-
going to say. One second, I'm almost done. This is what I'm going to say would lead to the claim that women are more emotional than men, when in all reality, we just see women expressing their emotions more. And let me make it very clear. this is not a bad thing. This is specifically a good thing. Why? Because expressing your emotions in a mature manner is very positive to do, right? In fact, this is what any licensed therapist would tell you. This is what any licensed psychologist would tell you. This is what any licensed medical health professional would tell you. This is why we see men committing 82% of suicides, right? It's because men don't express their emotions in these mature manners. They bottle them up and then they wait for them to explode.
I agree with that. That's a patriarchy. That's the whole patriarchy theory. You know, I mean, I think we are as a society, we're moving away from the patriarchy model. We're finding
I
that
agree.
it's
Which is good.
it's not conducive to our modern day approach. You know, I mean,
I'd say it's never been conducive to a fair society.
it is what it is. It is what
It's
it was.
not is what it is. It is what it was, and what it was bad. What we saw, right, under the under the extreme patriarchy of, let's say, 100 years ago, 115 years ago, women couldn't vote. Women were considered property of marriage. Women were considered, right, legal property of their husband. Women couldn't
Totally
divorce their
wrong.
husbands.
Yeah.
Right, and these are all like bad things, right? But what I'm saying
Right.
is like the evidence in which you could potentially provide for this idea that women are more emotional than men is just going to be a result of the patriarchy, right? 35 Mary, thank you so much for the $35 over Venmo. W Mary in the chat for the $35 and the W Mary in the chat for the $35 over Venmo. That's so incredibly kind of you, Mary. You just bought me dinner. W Mary, y'all.
Yeah, you know, I totally understand what you're saying when you would perceive a man being just by what you know more emotional than a woman,
think of
because
the
a
hand
woman has the ability to express her emotion a lot better than a man.
Yes. And this fact alone is what I think leads to this stereotype of women being more emotional than men. Because men just hold their emotions inside and wait for them to blow up.
So, giving certain circumstances, put them in a pressure cooker type situation, put a man and a woman in that both, you know, have to make this decision in the end. I mean, who's going to have more success if it comes to a certain you know area where
I think we
uh,
could look at examples
you
to
got to make
evaluate.
a decision on whether or not you're going to save lives. You're going to have to end
I
lives.
think
you know, or
we could
not
look at
have-
a really good example. You're saying if we put a man and a woman in these pressure cooker scenarios where they have to make quick decisions to save lives, would you say that like surgery would be a good example of such a scenario?
right, but you're also going to
Secret
lose
to that on
lives.
mustache.
Okay,
Yeah.
you're going to lose lives too.
Scott,
you
would
have
you
to
say
look
that
at
like
both-
surgery would be a good example of the high pressure situation where people have to make decisions to save people's lives? So if we were to put a man and a woman, right, into this role of being a surgeon, right, if your claim that men can outperform women in these high stress scenarios, would you say that we should expect to see male surgeons outperforming female surgeons?
Well, I don't know if you let me explain my example a little bit more. I'm just saying there was a situation where you said the surgeon thing. I didn't. So I mean, I was saying more of a leader type. They were both leaders, and they both had a situation where they had a group over here, a group, or each one had a group.
I'm
human-
giving you an example of this. I'm giving you an example. Yeah, you're basically saying if we take a man and a woman and put them in a high stress scenario where they have to make these decisive decisions, who would perform better? And I'm saying a good example of a high stress scenario would be surgery. Would you agree?
Not necessarily, but I think I'm 80% agreeing on that. I mean,
Yeah.
surgeons. I mean,
If
a whole-
female surgeons outperform male surgeons by a very large degree,
I'd like
we could
to
look
see
at
that stat.
we
That's
could
not
look at
correct stat.
it
That's
is
gaslighting.
it is
That's
a
not
correct stat. In fact, it was so it's published by the Journal of the American Medical Association. So the AMA has been conducting this study for the last 15 years, and they conducted the study on 1.7 million patients worldwide, spanning over 6 continents in 15 years. Right, and basically what has been concluded, and one of the biggest studies of all time, may I add, one of the most credible studies of all time ever released, right, is that if you need surgery and you're operated on by a female in comparison to being operated on by a male, you're
Mm-hmm.
less likely to experience negative post-operative outcomes, right? And you're less likely to die as a direct result of your surgery. So there is an insane amount of evidence. I cannot preface
I would be
how
I would be
insane this
willing to
study
bet
is,
that
right?
type
That
of
would
evidence.
suggest that that female surgeons would outperform male surgeons.
I would be willing to bet that that evidence is also contingent upon many different, uh, um, many different. What's the word? See, I just draw a brain for it when I get nervous. So many
Oh,
different
biases?
categories.
I don't know
They're
what you
just
mean when you say
different, just the avenues of surgery and all the process of being a surgeon. You have what they have to do to go through to be a surgeon.
Oh,
So,
so the study isolates for these variables.
I'm gonna look that up. I'm gonna totally look that up because it's in the numbers. I mean, how do you get it around the numbers? There are more men surgeons than there are women.
Yeah, we account for that disproportionate stat. We'd say for every for every like male surgeon, right, there'd be like, I don't know, I'm just gonna make up a number, 0.3 female surgeons, right?
Right.
But if we would account for this disproportionality and directly compare a female surgeon to a male surgeon, right, the female surgeon would outperform the male surgeon. So we would be taking in, right, like proportionate statistics.
Okay, so and then you're saying on all levels the female's going to be better. I mean, you're going to have better, a better
No,
suture,
specifically on two levels, right? If you operated on by a female, you're less likely to die as a result of your surgery, and you're less likely to experience negative post-operative outcomes, which I would
they've
say
got
would
a
be like
pretty
the
good
two
record on
fundamental pillars of a successful surgery.
right? And when did women
should
really start
thank you for
getting
picking.
into the field of being a surgeon?
I think we've seen like
How long?
rapid.
It's pretty. I mean, it's within 150 years, I would say.
Not sure. I think we've seen the rapid expansion of the STEM related careers in context of women over the course of like the last 40 years.
Right.
I
so
mean, now men can't
think
keep up.
when
Now, like I want to make it very clear right now. Right, 1 second, Scott. Right now, men cannot keep up with women. Right, when we're talking about who is going into STEM-related fields, men cannot keep up, and this
I
is
would agree with that.
caused
I would
by the
agree with
fact that a much higher level of women go to school than men. I mean, it's crazy.
It
right?
is.
Across
It is.
the board, right? When
No,
we're
I
looking
agree
at
with that.
elementary level, primary level, middle school level, high
The
school
last
level,
10 years, yes.
post grad level, grad level, etc. Right? What we see is that women are getting better grades, women are entering in more, and women are graduating more. And this
You know
is why
what?
we
That is
now
sad.
see, right, the excellence of women past men in the context of these STEM-related fields, and more women than men going into these STEM-related fields, right? And I think that this just reduces down to the claim that the only reason that we've observed these disparities, right, in the context of history, is because of the social stigmatization of women going into these fields. I mean, what do traditional gender norms teach you? They teach you that a woman's supposed to stay at home, cook, clean, and raise the children and be submissive to her husband, while her husband goes out, be's big, strong, and barley, right, and protects the family and provides by working a job. Right? And it's because of those norms that we've seen a disparity in women entering into these fields in the past.
But I mean, that's.
Wait,
kind
I'm
of
saying
a
this is the cause of this is the cause of these gender-based disparities.
Because you have it both ways on that. You have women that actually want that, and you have the misogynists, feminists that despise that. So what's the balance, and what is right?
Oh,
And,
are you
and
saying
think
that
about
some
when
women want?
marriages. Listen to this.
Are you asking? So I think this is the question that you're asking. You're asking, well, some women like want to be submissive to their husband and stay at the home, while some women
doesn't
don't
always
want to
come
do
down
that.
to
What's
submissiveness.
the balance is not the balance is not perpetuating these norms and saying that you must meet this standard, right, of the nuclear family, or you're fucked and you're not going to see success.
Right. I think that concept also is it's melting down in its own right, but it's still there are properties of it that modern women of today take on. They are the caretakers. They are and their job. They do
They're the caretakers because men are lazy. Men are irresponsible.
so when men take that role, they're also considered not a man.
Yeah,
When
and
they are
who
the
considers
stay-at-home
them?
dad.
Scott, with
you
all
know?
due respect, who considers them not a man? Men.
Right.
Misogynistic men. See, the problem is misogyny.
No, you can't call a man a misogynist.
Yeah, we can.
I mean, he's being. Well, no. What was I saying? I was gonna say.
Misogyny is like the prejudice against women.
Right.
I'm
the
sorry.
hatred
Are
and
men
prejudice of
prejudiced against women?
So, I mean, hatred. I mean, that's a pretty big word.
No,
know?
prejudice doesn't mean hatred. It just a prejudice is typically hatred. Prejudice is just a preconceived belief against a group of people without good reason.
Right, and hatred coupled with that, the bigotry of it, the hatred of it, I mean, that's
Hatred can be prejudice.
right.
But,
I think
but prejudice isn't always hatred.
So okay, so getting back to I think there's another stat that you haven't mentioned. Women have a greater pain tolerance than men do.
They do, and they also could handle stress
absolutely
better. Amara, thank you for the TikTok. You're right.
Huge. I mean, they have to endure more in their lives as far as their physical, as birthing. I mean, my God.
Females are biologically predispositioned to have a higher pain tolerance and deal with stress better than men, due to the fact that females give birth. It's just a biological predisposition that it exists. But hey, Scott, honestly, man, I think that we've just reduced down to like a conversation, right? Discussing, right, these things. And honestly, I really appreciate it, you for it. It's been fun. I am going to go ahead and move on to the next guest and to maybe get some debates
I
going.
had some, I got a little edge in on you, but I think it's a good something to think
Greg,
about.
thank you for the sunglasses. Yeah, I mean, Scott, I appreciate you for the conversation, man. I'm going to go to hit you with a follow button. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot them over. You seem like a curious dude. Appreciate you for coming up, man.
Have a good night.
You as well. We're going to go to move on to our next guest. Honestly, guy did not sound that bad. Guys, if we are enjoying the live, make sure that we are double tapping. If you do want to support me, y'all, my Venmo, my PayPal are my bio, y'all. Yeah, kind of W Scott. I think that, dude, honestly, okay, sure, when is it loading up? We're going to go to move on to our next guest. Do we understand, right, like the society and the culture that Scott grew up in? He was obviously like an old dude. Like the society and the culture that he grew up in, all he knew was like misogyny. So honestly, I'm quite proud of him. We're going to go ahead and move on to our next guest. What's going on, Yeshua? Do you think that men are superior to women, all things considered?
If we want to look at it from an all things considered standpoint, I think everybody has their like systemic role and societal role to play.
You think people should play these societal roles?
Yeah, because there's certain things women can do and there's certain things men can do.
So you think that men should be leaders, women shouldn't be leaders, men should be providers, women shouldn't be providers?
In most cases, yes, but in some cases it can be flipped around.
Why should men be leaders, Yeshua? Please fill me in.
Men are more logical. That's how we're wired, and that's how we're.
If men are more logical than women, then how come women possess a higher IQ, and which would be indicative of one's logical ability than men?
Because that's how they were raised.
So men are more logical than women, even though women would possess a higher ability to logically reason. This is bullshit.
Your logical
This is gibberish.
scales with your intelligence. If you're not intelligent, you're not going to be very logical.
Okay, so are you saying that men are more intelligent than women?
Some men, yes. Most scientists are
Most
men.
science. Okay, if men are more intelligent than women, then why? If men are more intelligent than women, then how come women outperform the fuck out of men in the context of academics? Wouldn't you say that there would be a positive correlation between intelligence and performance in academics? And if there is, this would denote women to be more intelligent than men.
If we want to go down that route, we can look at a historical part. Most men throughout all of history has been dominating all fields of leadership.
Wait, domination's a field of leadership would not be indicative of intelligence, nor does this respond to my question. Yeshua, would you say that there's a positive correlation between performance in school and intelligence?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Okay, so then why do women outperform men?
Women outperform men because of how they were raised. They're raised to be perfect. They're raised to be elegant. While
They're
men
raised to be more intelligent? I thought you just said that there's a positive correlation. So, you understand that you saying men are more intelligent than women. There's a positive correlation between intelligence and academic performance, and women outperform men in academics. These are three statements in which are not compatible with one another. if men are more intelligent than women, and there's this positive correlation between intelligence and academic performance, we'd expect to see men outperforming women in academics, given the fact that they're more intelligent. But we don't see that. We see the opposite of that.
We don't see that now today because most men are just, I guess you could say, like you.
What does that mean?
I mean, just like you don't really debate to listen or debate to understand. You just debate to argue.
Yeshua, I took your position, I put it in a blender, right? And then I made it into a shit smoothie. And your response to this is I'm not debating to listen, I'm debating to argue. This is embarrassing.
If we look at how you treated previous guests, you muted them every time they had a good point and you kicked them out.
I unironically had one of the best discussions that I've ever had on this live with my last guest.
Yeah, because Scott held his tongue. I can obviously see him. He was struggling with you.
Okay, so your point is false.
No, it's not.
Have I muted you once, Yeshua?
I haven't been in here that long. Of course you haven't. And I haven't said anything disrespectful or to anger you.
Why are you whining?
Who's whining?
You. I give
How?
you a valid critique to your claim, and then your response is, eh.
No, my response
Can I
is
give you my
gave-
valid critique to your claim again and get like a hint of logic? Bro,
I
if
gave it- I
men
gave
are
it an
so
example.
intelligent, then why the fuck are you fumbling? Are you a man?
I'm an adolescent of a man. I'm 18.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead. Well, I'm 19, buddy. Right, so you can't pull the youth card on me.
I mean,
I'm
you asked me if
I'm
man,
probably
and
like
I answered the
15,
question.
6. I'm probably like 5 to 6 months older than you. I hate it when people try to use "I'm so young." Shut the fuck
I'm
up.
not using that as an
Anywho,
excuse. You just asked me a
I'm
question.
gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and re-ask you, right? This critique. So you're saying men are more intelligent than women, right? So you said this is true. You also said, right, that there would be a positive correlation between how intelligent a person is and how well they perform in academics, right? And if this positive correlation exists, then we should expect to see men outperforming women in academics if they're more intelligent. But we don't see that. We see the opposite. We see women outperforming men. So therefore, your claim that men are more intelligent than women is false.
But if you look at most leaderships and most doctors, they're all men. So why does that?
Most leaderships and doctors are white. Does this mean that white people are smarter than black people?
White people have a more systemic advantage than black people. So of course they're going to get more leadership opportunities.
Okay, men have a systemic advantage over women. I ran right into the point, bud.
You're right. But at the same time, most scientists, most doctors, most lawyers are men.
Okay, most scientists, most doctors, most lawyers are white. Dude, I mean, the same dynamic exists in the context of race, and you wouldn't consider white people to be superior to black people. Also, guys, stop spamming 17 in the chat. Dude, it's the TikTok rule. He gave the right answer. I don't care.
Most white people have positions of power is because of generational wealth, and they have connections to get into those positions of power due to family and racism. So of course,
Beautiful response.
in America,
10 out of
most-
10.
of
Go ahead,
course,
Yeshua.
in America, most leadership people are going to be white because that's how the system is set up.
Oh
It's
my
set up to
god.
put
You are
minorities at a
so
disadvantage.
You are so smart and at the same time. Why do I say you're so smart? Because the reasons in which you're providing to me as to why there's more white people than black people in positions of power is absolutely true, right? However, we're also saying these same things about the dynamic between men and women. More men are in positions of power in comparison to women because men have more opportunity to be in more positions of power. Men have more generational wealth than women. Due to traditional gender norms and rules, they'll tell you that men are supposed to be the leaders, and they'll tell you that women are supposed to not be the leaders, right? In the same way that we observe systemic imbalances that would prevent more black people from being in positions of leadership, very similar, right? Systemic imbalances would prevent more women from being in positions of leadership. And we know this to be true, right? Because as the patriarchy has reduced, right? As we've seen more equality in the context of our nation, there's been more women in positions of power.
Positions in power of, like, let's say what group?
So, dude, everything you named off: scientists, doctors, inventors. Right now, there's an overwhelming amount of women entering into STEM-related fields so far that institutions of academics will tell you that they're about to start having to start special outreach to men.
No, but I think that's a good thing because women are finally stepping up in society and they're given the same opportunities as men.
But they're finally stepping up in society because they now have more equality than they've had in the past.
Yeah, and I
Which,
agree with
which
you.
is obvious. If you agree with this, then you should also agree to the claim that no, men are not superior to women, and the only reason that we see more men than women in these certain positions of power is because, right, of the inequalities and context of opportunity, not because men are quite literally better at doing these things.
Well, you said in all aspects considered, so I'm looking at it in like a societal aspect.
Okay, I am too. What?
So that means
We're
if
talking
you
about
look at-
society right now.
If you go off of based off of society, which society is based off of logic, well, I can't pronounce that word. My tongue is fucked up. But logic, facts, and statistics. Most men are in positions of power.
Brother, yeah, but we explained that there's a disproportionate amount of men in these positions of power, because men have more opportunity than women to be so. I've said this 4 times now.
It
In
still
fact,
doesn't
I don't under
change
one
the
second,
fact that they're
Yeshua.
in the position of power.
Okay, there's more white people in positions of power than black people. Does this make white people superior to black people?
No, it doesn't.
Why not?
I already answered that question.
Yeah, you said because black people have less opportunity. I'm going to take your same argument that you gave to me as to why it doesn't matter in the context of men and women. It doesn't change the fact that there's more white people in positions of power. How does that sound? Does that
sounds
sound
correct.
right or does that sound wrong?
It sounds correct.
So this does mean that according to your standard, you'd consider white people superior to black people.
More morally, no, but systemically and like in a societal standard, yes.
So you're a white supremacist.
I'm
Nice,
actually
Yeshua.
a black male, and you can't label me anything that I haven't said myself. So no, I'm not a white supremacist.
What does it mean to be a white supremacist, Yeshua?
A white supremacist. I think my interpretation of it is, if you're a white supremacist, you think you're better than everybody else, and you think that your race is the overall like better race.
Would you say you think you're superior to everyone else and you think your race is superior to other people's races?
No, I think everybody's equal, but that's how
If you think
people live.
everyone's equal, then you wouldn't think that men are superior to women.
Logically, yes, they are. They're more capable to do more things than women can.
Yeah, give me any evidence of this.
Most physical jobs are dominated by men for the simple fact that we are biologically stronger. They're more
I don't think
capable.
that being physically stronger would be indicative of superiority. Like, for instance, is humanity the most superior species on Earth?
Yes.
Is humanity the physically strongest species on Earth?
If we include tools, yes.
So you could, I said physically strongest. So you could beat a gorilla in an arm wrestling match.
Obviously not. A gorilla's not going to arm wrestle me.
So a gorilla is physically stronger. So it seems like humanity is not the physically strongest species in the context of the species on Earth. Yet you would consider them to be superior. So therefore, you don't think that superiority would equate to physical strength. So you just
and like
contradicted
I
your
said-
argument for white men are superior to women.
No, you took it out of context and put it in a completely wrong analogy that made no correlation at all. I said in
Jeez.
physical jobs.
Just because it didn't make any sense to you does not mean that it was a bad analogy.
It was a
just
bad analogy.
means that you're incapable of abstractly thinking, Yeshua.
No, that was a bad analogy. Because, one, if you put a woman on an oil rig, do you think she's going to survive? Like,
If you
honestly.
put a man in school, do you think he's going to graduate? According to
Yeah.
the statistics, not.
Yeah.
Women are much more likely to graduate. And then absolutely, I'd say if we were to put a woman on an oil rig, she would survive. In fact, I'd almost say, right, that women would be more capable than men. Jordan, thank you for the hand hearts.
Why
And
would
let
they be
me
capable?
tell you why, right? So if these like norms that socialized like working on an oil rig to be a man's job didn't exist, I would say that women would be more capable at doing this. Lexi, thank you for the hand hearts. Because working on an oil rig takes an insane amount of emotional strength. Working on an oil rig means that you are good at dealing with stress. You have a high pain tolerance. You're emotionally sound because that shit can get taxing. Right. And what we see is women have higher pain tolerances than men. Women are biologically predispositioned to deal with stress better than men. And women have a higher EQ, causing them to deal with their emotions better than men. So I'd say if we take these stigmas, these societal stigmas out of the picture, then fuck, I might even say that this should be a woman's job.
No, because it's physically demanding in women. Well, most women. I'm not gonna say
Oh
all.
my God,
'cause
back
some
to the
women-
bicep thing. Back to the bicep thing.
Yeah, we are coming
I'm
back
so
to the
sorry,
bicep
buddy.
part. Let me
But
speak.
how much can
Can I
you
speak?
bench?
How much can I bench? 220.
220?
Yeah.
Yeah, I bench 275. Are you inferior to me since I'm stronger than you?
Yeah, I would absolutely say so. Physically, yes, I am.
Oh, brother. Who's your favorite president of all time?
I don't have one. I don't care for politics.
Who's your favorite leader of all time?
No, I don't have one. Now that I
Jordan,
think
thank you for
about
the
it,
hand arts. Who's someone you really look up to?
someone that I really look up to, I guess we could say my father, for example.
Your father. Very nice.
Yeah,
Who do you think is superior? Your father or a 16-year-old high school dropout that just got broken up with, so he's emotionally damaged, and to cope with this, he injects steroids 3 times a day, which has caused him to be able to bench 450 pounds. Who is superior?
physically,
All things considered, Yeshua.
all things considered, it would be my father because he has more accomplishments than that.
Okay, so all things considered.
If we
right,
consider all
uh,
things, yes. But
so all
physically,
things con-
my father is
all-
inferior.
Okay, well, we've been talking about all things considered this entire time, right? And when you say that your father's superior, even though he's weaker, right? But then you make the claim that men are superior to women specifically because they're stronger. This is just gibberish. You're contradicting your own logic.
Not at all,
Vinny, thank you
because
for the rose.
my main point is that men are superior because we dominate more of the physical field. Same thing with the intellectual field with scientists.
Because you dominate more of the physical fields. What's your job?
My job, I work as basically I stock a restaurant.
Okay,
It's
I want to
basically
consider.
the weather.
Okay. So, would you say that you're an alpha male because you stock restaurants?
I don't believe in that statement.
Dude, it's just ridiculous that you'd hold to the claim that you're superior to a woman because you work for minimum wage plus tips and stock restaurants.
Actually,
That's
no, I work
gibberish.
for
That's
fun.
fucking gibberish. Becca, thank you for the crown. Is he quiet? I think he's gagged.
No, I'm thinking that like we're gonna continue on with your point.
No, that's just it, man. We talked about these physically demanding fields, right? And the
Right.
reason in which men would be more capable to do these things than women
Right.
would specifically be because men are physically stronger on average.
Right.
But then we reduce this point that men are physically stronger to not be equal to superiority through, right, these reductives that I gave you, such as comparing your dad to a high school dropout that could bench 450, and you saying that humanity is the most superior species on Earth, meanwhile not being the strongest, then on the notion of there being more men than women in intellectually dominated fields, right? There's also more white people than black people, yet you don't consider white people to be superior to black people. But you
I
said
don't
this was for
consider
the
white
reason that
people
white people would have more
superior to
opportunity
black
to do
people
so.
from
One second,
a
Yeshua.
moral standpoint.
And you specifically said this is because white people would have more opportunity to do so than black people, right? But the same thing could be said about the dynamic of men and women.
So-
We've just ran your position through the fucking blender, dude.
No, you twisted my words. I said white people are more superior than black people through a social standpoint. Morally, everybody's equal. When men, women, whites, blacks, everybody. If we think of it like that, but not everybody thinks like that because some people are just assholes and they're
Can you
raised-
define superiority?
Superiority is the ability to do something better than another group.
Wait, just because one group is doing something more than another group doesn't mean that they're doing it. They can necessarily do it better.
I said
this
they're
is-
doing something better than the other group. I didn't say more.
I know you're saying because these spaces are male dominated, it means that males can literally do it better than females. However, I'd refute this claim. I don't think because STEM-related fields are male-dominated, this means that a male would proportionately outperform their female counterpart in the context of that field. This is an is-ought fallacy. You're saying because this is the way it is, this is the way it ought to be. However, I would strongly refute that.
I never said that's the way it ought to be, but that is the way it is if we look
But
at
it doesn't mean that it's the most preferable, right, scenario. It doesn't mean
I've never
that
said it
because
was the
there's
most
more.
preferable.
Oh,
I'm just going
okay.
on
So if you're
facts.
saying that this would not reduce down to men literally being better at these things than women, and your definition of superiority would entail men doing these things better than women, then you have no grounding for your statement that men would actually do these things better than women.
They are doing it better because there's
Yeah, you're saying because there's more, they're doing it better. Absolutely not
because
the
there's
case.
more people in the field.
There's disproportionately more male surgeons than female surgeons. Yet we know that
It's
female
because
surgeons
females don't
outperform
get the
male
opportunity.
surgeons.
They don't get the opportunity to
Are
prove
you
themselves.
listening to my point? We know that there is a disproportionately way more male surgeons than female surgeons, but we also know that the female surgeons outperform the male surgeons. So
In what
just because a
surgeries?
certain group, what's up?
And like what surgery? So like,
All surgeries,
So-
everything across the board.
can you show me the study?
JMA. It's by the Journal of the American Medical Association. It's been published on 1.3 million patients worldwide, and its conclusion is if you're operated on by a female in comparison to a male, you're less likely to die as a direct result of your surgery, and you're less likely to experience negative postoperative outcomes. It's a fucking fact of reality.
But does it include what type of surgeries? Because like,
All
a
types of
male can
surgeries.
do a
You
brain
understand that
surgery.
it was done on 1.3 million patients?
But the thing is, does it categorize the surgeries? If you're gonna bring up a fact and cite it to me, you should at least show the evidence. And then
I
point it
gave
out.
you the evidence. I unironically gave you the evidence.
Isn't it your live? You can show things in the background, can't you?
I'm not going to change my background for you. I am giving you the evidence. It is by the Journal of the American Medical Association in association with American Medical Association, right? If you'd like to find this online, you could just look up JAMA, female surgeons outperform male surgeons. Go look it up. I'm telling you what to look up. Also, we cannot hear you while you're on pause. I just wanted to put it out there. And then everyone in here, y'all, make sure that we're double tapping away in that phone screen. Do you need stats? Bro, should we drop this kid? Dude, this is insufferable. Oh, man. Get off TikTok, go outside? Yo, Sienna's kind of based. Someone in the chat tells me to get off TikTok and go outside. Maybe I should do that. Damn, y'all want me to drop him.
It says overall. It doesn't give an exact operation because like they could be studying men's surgeries that are doing more complex surgeries, and then they can just go to a more easier surgery for women and say that they performed better.
Yeah, we're just gonna drop him. We're gonna go and move on to our next guest. I'm so sorry. If I didn't drop him, I would have like had very high cortisol levels. What's going on, Moose? Do you think that men are superior to women, all things considered?
Hello?
Hi, Moose. Do you think men are superior to women?
Yeah, I do.
I'm
Well,
gonna kick
okay.
you. One sec, Moose. I'm gonna kick you, but I
Why?
want to ask real quick. Why do you think men are superior to women?
Well, because, well, it depends what case you're talking about.
Damn. Okay. Well, obviously we're gonna kick him. He was a fetus. I was actually just like curious. Like, wonder if like a fetus would have like an articulatable position. In fact, he actually had a more nuanced position than practically everyone that I've talked to about. He was like, it depends on the context. W fetus, honestly. What's going on? Do you think that men are superior to women, all things considered?
Hi, can you hear me?
Sure can.
Oh, good, great. So I do not think men are superior.
Very nice. I am just looking for misogynists. I do appreciate you for coming up, non-misogynist guest. We're gonna go to move on to our next guest. Y'all, if you want to support me, my Venmo and my PayPal are my bio, y'all. It's a great way to support me. I'll have a notification at the top of my screen. You could attach a message. I'll read it out on live. Let's go to move on to our next guest. What time is it? Damn, it is almost 8 p.m. I've been on for 4 hours. Time flies, ladies and gentlemen. Time flies. All right, Malik's not loading up. Let's go ahead and move on to our next guest. Let's see what Brand has to say. Damn, time flies. What's up, Brand? Do you think that men are superior to women, all things considered? Okay, Bran fucking left. Y'all hit that follow button if you haven't already. If you're not following, what the fuck are you doing? What the fuck are you doing if you're not following? What's up? Do you think men are superior to women, all things considered?
It depends on the subject.
I said all things considered. So like
It depends on
overall,
the
at the end of the
subject.
day.
If you're talking about sports, men are 100% superior.
All right. Well, some people just don't know what all things considered means. We're going to go ahead and move on to our next guest, Eli. If you don't think that there's superior, all things considered, just don't get in the guesser class. Come on. What's up, Elijah? Do you think men are superior to women, all things considered? Elijah just stopped. Moving on to our next guest. Why are there so many people in the guest request that are not here to debate? Lordy Lord. Chat. What's up, Barry? Do you think that men are superior to women, all things considered? Holy cow, guys. Oh, man. This shit is hell. Like, I swear to God, when I just get on... Kitten, thank you for the 1 cent over Venmo. Can we get a W Kitten in the comment section right now for the 1 penny over Venmo? W Kitten in the chat, y'all. W Kitten in the chat for the 1 single penny over Venmo. What's up, Ty? Do you think that men are superior to women, all things considered?
We had this debate last time, bro. Definitely.
Why so, Ty?
All right, so in what aspect are you talking about?
Overall, we're saying at the end of the day, do you think men are like more valuable or worth more than women?
Isn't this whole topic misogynistic?
Yeah, it is, Ty.
For sure.
So I'm essentially asking you if you're a misogynist.
I mean, you asking this question is misogynist.
Oh, you're saying I'm a misogynist.
Definitely.
Okay, so you're whining, crying, and moaning. This is kind of
say-
embarrassing for you, Ty.
I say physically, you know what I'm saying, we are superior.
All things considered, do you think that men are superior to women?
Not all things considered. That's misogynistic. I see what you're trying to do there.
Oh, okay. I'm going to go to move on. All right, let's go and see what our next guest, Nevi, has to say. Would it be, like, homophobic if I asked people why they thought being gay was wrong? Would it be, like, racist for me to ask, like, why people think that white people are more valuable than black people? I don't know. What's up, Nevi? Do you think that men are superior to women, all things considered?
Just a second. I gotta fix my microphone.
No worries, Nevi.
Thanks. I gotta figure this out.
I can hear you just fine. Okay, she just left. We're gonna go to move on to our next guest. Let's go to get Ando up here. Chat, be nice. Opal, thank you for the 1 penny over Venmo. All right, Ando's not loading. And chat, please be nice, guys. We're gonna go to move on to our next guest, bro. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why we can't get any debates going. Chat, fucking, y'all gotta be nice. Hello, dummy. Do you think that men are superior to women, all things considered? Bro, what the fuck is going on? Can we get like an L guests? Can we get like an L guest in the? Can we get like? Can we get an L guest in the chat? Can we get an L guest in the chat? I don't know why like literally no one's coming up here to debate. I'm so sorry. This is such a waste of time. Bro, whoever said Eric Cartman is going to hell. Whoever said Eric Cartman, you are going to hell. What's up? Do you think that men are superior to women, all things considered?
Yeah, bro.
Why so, man?
Basic infrastructure.
You said 2 words.
No, infrastructure.
What the fuck?
Sorry, bro. Infrastructure. My bad.
Men superior to women because infrastructure. Can you expand upon your point, sweetheart? Thanks.
Well, 99% of bricklayers are men. It's like 99% of these infrastructure trades are men. It's like, so literally everything.
Yeah, what do you do for work?
I'm a tradie, bro.
You are a what?
Apprenticeship.
For what?
Plumbing and mining. Or plumbing in the mines.
Okay. So would you say that like certain things such as like scientists or professors are going to be like inferior to like infrastructure workers?
I don't even see it infrastructure workers were more superior. I just said men are superior because of infrastructure.
You know, you
because
would
of
be, you
Are
would, you
how
would be
many
equating,
how many viewers are in a house right now?
you would be equating
Exactly.
superior. You would be
So so if you disagree that men are inferior,
I mean, here's my argument,
that
dude.
is the point.
Because you would be equating, right, superiority to working in infrastructure, right? And I just, hey, buddy, I'm gonna mute you if you
Yeah, sorry,
keep over
sorry,
talking me.
sorry.
Like you are gonna be equating like, Chris, thank you so much for the $5 over Venmo. You will be equating, right, superiority to working in infrastructure, and I just think it's like a really fucking dumb claim to make.
I
Like
think
you're gonna say
it's
that like
one of
I'm still
one of
gonna like
many
interrupt
things.
you, right? I hate when people interrupt me. It makes me lose my train of thought. Like you're gonna be saying that like plumbers are the most superior people that have ever walked this planet. Bricklayers are the most superior people that have ever walked this planet. Construction workers are the most superior people that have ever worked this planet. It just makes no sense to say these things. Like, come on. Trav, thank you so much for the baby dragon. W Trav in the chat, y'all.
Saves.
Okay, he just left. I honestly like. We're gonna go ahead and do like 2 more guests, and then I'm gonna end for the night. I really can't think of a better response to that shit. I really can't. Like when someone says they're superior because they constitute the majority of infrastructure workers, it's like, do we like? It's just makes no sense. Martin, thank you for the chili. All right, Dolly, you're not connecting. Feel free to hop back in the guest requests. Melvin, thank you so much for the $5 over Venmo. W Melvin in that chat, y'all. W Melvin in that chat. What's up, Steph? Do you think that men are superior to women, all things considered?
I'm sorry, Dane. I love you.
I love you too, Steph. We're gonna go ahead and move on to our next guest. Let's go ahead and see what Jacob Jones has to say. Let's go ahead and see what our next guest has to say. What's up, Jacob? Do you think that men are superior to women overall?
I think that.
Are you talking to me from the fucking ISS? Are you an astronaut?
Yes. Yes.
Are you like speaking to me over ham radio? What's your call sign?
It's Yeah.
I'm sorry,
astronaut.
Jacob. You got a shitty mic. I gotta move on to the next guest. Let's go to get our next guest up in here. What's up, Sherwin? Do you think men are superior to women, all things considered?
Maybe.
It's a yes or no question.
I think men can be, intellectually superior.
Bro, you've been trying to make up your goddamn mind if men were superior to women for like the last 30 seconds, and you're telling me that you're gonna be intellectually superior to half of the world's population?
Well,
be so fucking for real. Be so fucking for real.
Are you intellectually superior to some people?
Jesse, I appreciate you for the handouts. I'd say so.
Would these people be women?
Jesse, thank you for the $15 over Venmo. W Jesse for the $15 over Venmo, y'all. Predominantly men, actually. W Jesse in the comment section. Thank you so much for the $15 over Venmo. Because what
but
we
some
see is that
people
women
would be
typically possess a
women.
higher IQ on average.
Pardon?
Women would typically possess a higher IQ on average than men.
Depends on your education.
And women are more educated than men.
Maybe. Maybe
Not
some.
maybe. It's a fact of reality. In fact, much more women go to school than men. They get better grades and graduate at higher rates proportionately. If we want to talk
I don't know
about
your
education,
country. I don't know about your country, but I don't, it's going to be different in every country.
we typically see this be a trend worldwide.
Yeah, not 100% of the time, though.
Well, we're talking about like generalizations, like wearing a seatbelt isn't safe 100% of the time, but we'd still say it's generally safe to wear a seatbelt. Women don't outperform men 100% of the time in school, but we'd still say generally women do. I mean, Sherwin, once again, you're saying that men are intellectually superior to women, yet you don't comprehend what a generalization is, and you're a man, so you're your own counterargument.
I think some people are going to be intellectually superior than other people. I don't think I'm, probably more intellectually superior than an average person. You know,
Nothing wrong with that, Sherwin. But what I'm saying here is if we're going to make the claim that men are superior to women, this must mean that the generalization that men are more intellectually superior than women on average must be true. And quite frankly, that's false.
yeah, maybe it is, maybe it isn't.